All right, I wanted to make a video about our XR22 Imperial Outdoors. It's been all over the country. I'm in New Jersey right now. We bought it in Utah in February of 23, I believe, so we've had it about 3 years now. But there are quite a few issues, and those all started right away. So from the moment we left, we started having issues with this back door. This back door doesn't seal properly because they use these small hinges. You can see them right there. Those small hinges don't create enough force to seal the top, so you can actually see daylight through it. And then these rails, I've had to replace hardware in these rails because they just put these crappy screws in them, and those screws pulled right out. So then there was some delamination that was occurring, and it still is. You can see it here. This was their fix. Just finishing nails and this little strip, but you can see it's terrible. The other thing is, right away from the factory, there was hardware missing here that had to be replaced. We've had to have it recoated on the outside. This I've had to fix myself because this just falls down. This stuff pops out and doesn't stay put, so I have to fix that. I had to fix the refrigerator myself because this refrigerator, it's electric only, and you can see this was from me pulling it out and fixing it. It's got a fuse behind it, and it's got a fuse here. So they didn't think when they constructed this thing to put a fuse that was accessible. So you had to remove the entire fridge to get to a single fuse that went out. So I soldered some wires that come forward, and then I have a fuse holder here in the front under this grate, so that won't have to happen again. The other issue is this very small tankless water heater. I actually got a replacement for it that I'm going to pick up today because it has been nothing but problems, and now it's leaking. So we've had some water leak issues with the plumbing. And if you look at this stuff, all this is just, it's almost like a paper. It's not even kind of a vinyl wrap or anything, but it's a really delicate, almost paper-like substance that they put over this stuff, and it just rubs right through. So you can see any spot where anything touches it, it just rubs right off. So it's happening on the door. You can see it. There we go. Focus. You can see it on the door in multiple places. See it there. It's happening everywhere. These electronics are antiquated and they are terrible. The batteries aren't actually at 100% charge. It's another thing. Shane claimed that it was good to negative 40 degrees and that they had camped in well below zero in one of them to test it out, and it did wonderful. Well, they forgot to tell you that they use lithium-ion batteries that are not self-heated, and they're not rated for that kind of temperature. This stuff right here, again, this was their fix because this was all delaminating, and now we're still having issues with it. This was their fix. This was ROA-Off road. And the funny thing is, when we went to look at this, Shane sold it as the last camper you'll ever buy because it was built so well. It's one that you would pass on to your children. Well, it wears tires unevenly, and I've had it looked at multiple times. We'll go on the outside. The fiberglass that they tout is so thick, and stuff that's used on multi-million-dollar coaches is this stuff here. Well, what they don't tell you is that it doesn't like UV light, and so you end up with a haze. I had to spend $1,600 having the haze taken off, and I put a ceramic coat on the outside. All of this has had to be recoated because it just comes off from the factory. Their coating just flakes off. I had this bed lined because they just use a sticker. You can see it up here, and it's actually coming off in places up here. I'm gonna have that done too, but this costs over $1,000 to have fixed. I've had to take this apart multiple times and fix it because it just rusts. The ladder, the same thing. The coating that they use is just absolutely terrible. This is the battery box. Why would you put batteries in a metal box? especially when the batteries are so sensitive to temperature. That doesn't make any sense. The hydraulic suspension makes a bunch of noise, but you can see it's wearing the inside of the tires, and we never ever have loaded this thing or overloaded this thing with, you know, motorcycles or anything like that. It just seems to wear tires funny. So we've had issues with tire wear. These swing outs back here, they're not robust enough, these hinges, and so they flex and they bow. You can see this door, this is where it doesn't, you can see it squeezes nice here, but then it extends as you go up to the top, and so light creeps through. They've never fixed that because these clasps or these clamps that are on the inside are just too small. So I've had to replace these multiple occasions because they just break off. If you look, these are still factory ones. They're just put in crooked. All the coating on the bottom has had to be redone. This coating's had to be redone. I've had to have this redone multiple times. This as well. It's just been a nightmare. It's constant maintenance on this thing for something that he touted as camper. You know, something you'd never have to buy again. You could just pass it on to your children. Well, all of this has had to be recoated because it was all coming apart. And these were just breaking off. Lots of the same hardware on the bottom. They just used the cheapest hardware possible. So it's been constant maintenance for me. The solar system on it, like I said, it's antiquated. It's not reliable. It takes constant fiddling. This door has had to be adjusted multiple times over and over and over again. But anyways, it's just been a disaster. They use very cheap plumbing material, you know, and this is something that's I think it's $110,000 new for a camper this small, and you can't even get something that wears tires properly. So anyway, it is a miserable camper. I think for the build quality, this is something that should have been in the $40,000 range. But Shane is a salesman, you know, and the funny thing is when I was having issues, when this water heater started to have issues, I called there and I was telling him about it. And his first response was, let's get you into something new. You've had that camper for a while. Let's get you into something new. Well, that's great, Shane, but not everybody makes the kind of money to replace something that was so expensive to start with every couple of years, unless you want to stay in debt the whole time. So anyway, the ROA Off-Road Imperial Outdoors, they don't build a great product. Even these seats, they're tearing through on the bottom because the way that they did the frame inside, it has sharp points that rub, and so it's over there as well. It's the same on this one. They're just not built well. We've had issues with this bed. Like I said already, the rails back there, even the rail for the drop down screen for when you have that back door down, I've had to replace hardware in it. It's just this Go Power, I don't know, maybe they're better now, but they're terrible. I mean, the fridge is subpar. This Greystone range top is hood is subpar. The Furion stove, I've had issues with the igniters. This waterless toilet is a pain in the neck. It doesn't seal very well, and so you can't leave a cartridge in it. It has to be used and thrown away immediately because it just doesn't seal very well. This plumbing here, you can see these are real flimsy. You have to be careful with this shower. I've got hose and I'm moving the camper right now, but it doesn't drain properly, and so the water will back up in this. You actually have to almost put a tilt on the camper so that it's tilting toward the back so that gravity will force the water out of it. But we've just spent way too much money on this thing, keeping it on the road. I mean, just look at this. This is their fix. That I took it back to them when immediately we noticed this after we took it home, and it was doing that. And then same with this back door. I'd have to pull all my stuff out. I'm moving right now, but to see, they put screws through it that were way too long, bolts, and so those, and they didn't even cut them off. They just left them like that. So RVs of America off-road, I don't know. It's unfortunate. There aren't a lot of tradesmen left and a lot of people that take this stuff seriously. Anybody can sell something, but as you can see, not everybody can build something. I mean, look, that's just from it being closed. Look down here. I mean, they didn't think of any of that stuff. So it's just not well built. Even this wood paneling they put up here, they're very thin and they're very delicate, and so all these knots, they're loose and they're just popped out, and so you have to be careful. You can see this one has already lost a piece of it. They move around. They're just not, I don't know what Imperial was thinking. I don't know what RVs of America Off-Road was thinking. I don't know. I was thinking. I definitely fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And so we've got this very expensive camper that is just my nightmare. I'm constantly fixing things, and it's not even that big. But I mean, the new water heater was $1,100. And then because I'm out here in New Jersey, at school, I just retired from the military. I'm gonna have to pay somebody to put it in, which means that the stove's got to come out. But to check all the rest of it, because there's water tanks underneath. Oh, this tank heater, that's not, it functions, but it's not appropriately equipped for actual very cold weather. It won't keep the tanks warm enough. So you'll end up with frozen tanks anyways. Anyways, that's been our experience with it. These windows, this stuff comes out of the track all the time. It's very flimsy, and so you're constantly being careful and having to put it back. It's just not well built. You couldn't really put anything in here. You'd have to add quite a bit more, because they just put these little tie downs. So you would have to really, you'd have to put some tracks in here. You'd have to put some sort of removable system, because the way that they did it, if you put a motorcycle in here, because there's no track for it, it would just slide and fall and would destroy things. And like I said, this crack, that's from the camper flexing. So the camper flexes, this is a single piece. They didn't think about that, and so this is rigid, and it has to give somewhere, and so that's where it cracked right through. So it's $110,000 plus work in progress project camper. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, doing dishes, just a little bit of water, and that's what you get. Come on. And this stuff keeps coming off anyways. I have to push it back and reattach it. It's just unfortunate. We've taken good care of it. The spindles have been greased like they're supposed to be. I rotate the tires, but they just eats tires from the inside. Nothing we can do about it. So anyway, the heaters had issues. Of course, the sail switch went out. And that seems to be pretty typical with campers anyways. But I don't know if anybody builds a great camper anymore. Imperial Outdoors sure doesn't. And RVs of America will sell them to you, I guess. I don't know, what did Tommy Boy say? Shane could probably sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. I guess I was that woman in white gloves, guys. Anyway, hope you get something out of this and spread it around, because people should be held accountable when they give sales pitches that are not correct. So anyways, everybody have a good time. Talk to you soon. Here's home sweet home for the next 3 months.